Okay. So, I have this phone, yeah? Is decidedly phone-shaped. I am trying to make it not consumery, obviously. But there are difficulties, there are complications, there are limits. This phone lacks the, I don't know what it's called, desktop ability thing. You plug it into a HDMI adapter and dock. You can't dock it. If you could dock it, you could take that phone and just plug it into a dock. This is very informative so far. You plug it into a dock and then use a mouse and keyboard and a monitor with it very easily. And if you could do something like that, you can get away with a lot more. You know, there's an actual complete version. So it's practically a virtual machine. I think it is complete. There's a complete version of Emacs on Termux. Complete with SSH forwarding connections, opening files over SSH tunnels. It's extremely complete, actually. That is one thing that I did get out of this this upgrade. The later versions of Android refused. This is actually something that was related to what I was talking about before. Android began writing security features that prevented a application like Termux from existing on the store, the app store for the Android. So the only thing they could do with that was leave Termux at that version on the Android. What is it? Google Play Store, on the Google Play Store, and then make the updates through F-Droid. So for those later versions of Android, basically, I had an old enough version of Android that I could not update to the latest version of Termux, which is probably the most productive application on the phone. I mean, if you're a Linux head, yeah. I mean, you can compile actual. I don't want to say you compile the kernel, because you kind of don't. Technically, you install packages for a complete operating system, a complete Linux workspace, and then you connect to it locally. You run it locally, and then connect to it locally via VNC to get a desktop environment going. Running Linux on a non-rooted Android seems kind of silly, but it was also something that happened before there were KVMs, kernel level virtual machines in these devices, whatever these devices are. So before, you could technically run Linux on your Android phone without root. If it would just run in its own sandbox and be intensely slow and a terrible experience. But this is getting close to territory of, like, what I'm trying to make it is into a Pine phone. I'm trying to make it into whatever that other one is, the proper Linux phones with the proper Linux mobile experience. I did read online people who were getting this. I got the phone as a free upgrade for the cell service that we're on, and I found people online saying that they they took this upgrade, this free upgrade of this phone, sold the phone, and used for a little bit more money for the difference, bought an unlocked version of the phone, and then went back and signed it up on their service. You give me the phone for free, I'm going to sell it, I'm going to get a better phone, and I'm going to use that one. It's a free upgrade. It's free real estate. I very clearly was using too little butter these last few days or weeks or whatever. More butter. More butter. If you haven't caught on or haven't been listening for a long time, butter coffee. You have to blend it. You put grass-fed butter into a blender with coffee. Put a tablespoon for like 16 ounces of coffee. Blend it up. It is amazing and delicious. And it's like cheating for your mornings. You show up at work full of energy. There was a wise man that once said, "The brain is an amazing organ. It starts from the moment you wake up and doesn't turn off until you get into the office." All right, Android. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, with the speed that we're afforded on these newer devices, we can actually run a version of Linux atop the Android operating system and have a positive experience. Like, it works okay. Further, this device is so upgraded and up to date and whatever that it's got insane pixel density, to the point that I was like, can I actually use this now for like the VR thing, the VR excursion that I was playing around with? And the answer is almost. The problem with the VR is still text, you know. You can reduce the resolution and reduce the distance that the screen is rendered to you, but the text is still, you know, you might as well get a Sony Glasstron. Oh, I shouldn't say that. It's like 10 times more pixels, but it's still not enough. That's the problem. It's just still not enough. If you're monitoring things, or, you know, reviewing things and want to have access to things that don't really need a lot of text, or you're doing, you know, graphical work and you're frequently zooming in, I could do probably 70% of my KiCad work on VR with that kind of pixel density. It's just not good enough. It's close for a lot of things. I'm not sure what it would be sufficient, like actually sufficient for, but it doesn't make it in a lot of ways. So let's see. Right, so I'm trying to get this phone to be not a consumer device, and to increase productivity. As you can see, there's a 1,000-fold increase in my ability to yammer at my phone, so that's good. Very important. I needed an addition. I needed like 10 more megapixels. That was the problem. Not the content. No, that was the problem. Also, I do not have the capacity to turn this front-facing camera into something else. So, like, for video, it's zoomed in, but for photos, front-facing, it's not zoomed in. And you can't record video when it's not zoomed in. And my only options are to zoom in even more if you all want to, like, inspect my nose hairs while I talk, or to just leave it here. So here we are. I actually can't reduce it. I would prefer to, because it would reduce the overall file size of this and the difficulty I have in any form of file transfer with a 2 gigabyte file for 15 minutes of basically audio. This is waste. Muda. Bloat. Overkill. It's terrible. I hate it. So, how do I make this device productive? And the answer is pretty much I don't. But the closest I got was setting up a VNC server on my home system. You know, you've got the regular displays, the Zero desktop display, X session, and you can VNC share that one. But then you make a new virtual virtual VNC. You make a new virtual desktop, which has the exact same resolution as this phone, and then you connect to it through your phone, and then get like a full screen experience with it. And the answer to that is, this is the problem with the. It's the same problem with the Surface Pro, the Surface 4 Pro. That was a fantastic little device. The screen was unreal. It just wasn't fun to work on. It didn't. Not fun is not the right word. It didn't feel good to work on. It had too much pixel density. It had so much pixel density you couldn't take advantage of it because the screen was still so small. And I'm nearsighted. I don't like. I'm not squinting or anything or saying, trying to adjust how close or far I need to be. I just take off my glasses and then I work a lot better and there's less eye strain with things close up. I also use very, very tiny font settings on my phones and my devices, and I don't care. I like it. But that thing was so dense, I couldn't make use of it. I couldn't do any coding on it. I hated it. I hated doing coding on it. So I'm coming back around to these things like, what is the difference here? What is the cutoff? What is the change? Because we have this consumer device. Oh, I'm sorry. I made the VNC session. I connected to it. I plugged in a mouse and a keyboard to this thing, and I had a. VNC is actually rather quick on Linux systems, especially locally. It was fine, but it was too small. Like if I had one of those hilarious phone camera face mount things where the phone sits like right here, I'd probably go even more nearsighted. But the point is, like, the screen's too small to really do any kind of dense work. I might have to cut the resolution in half, so it's the same geometry or same ratio, but still just everything's bigger, so it's a little bit easier to see. And it's just one of those things. It's like the first-person shooter professional gamers who are on about 24 megahertz. It's like, oh yeah, or I'm sorry, 240 megahertz. It's like, oh, more megahertz means more better, right? Yeah, number goes up. But at some point, they increased it past a certain point, and we're like, this doesn't feel as good as the last time. Let me switch back, and I go, so much better. Like, well, yeah, on paper, this should be better. On paper, this should work better and help you out. But in practice, for whatever reason, it just doesn't. So this should be able to do productive stuff. And a VNC session, a fast, a very low latency VNC session with a with a high pixel density phone, I should be able to do actual work on it. The screen width it's more than 1080p, but it's only this big. And it makes me question, like, because the work I'm doing, I'm like, I'll figure out how to do it on this phone. And I do figure it out, and I hate it. And all of this is just blown away, just destroyed by a laptop. Like, the laptop is a better, faster, more intuitive, slimmer package. Like, everything, I mean, technically it's not a slimmer package, but it's like, you whip out the laptop, you open it up, and you have, I wouldn't say full resolution, because this actually has more pixels than my laptop. This actually might have more pixels than two of my laptops. Oh man. But the experience is 10 times better on the laptop. So the question the question returns. What is the tablet for? The laptop is a small computer, and it makes very few sacrifices as a workstation. So what is the tablet for? Is a tablet a consumer device? Unless you're like drawing on its surface using Wacom technology, you get portability, but There's something weird there. I also saw the video that really started to make me question this was a guy that had a Raspberry Pi that he was connecting via USB Type-C directly to a iPad Pro, and he was just SSHing into the Raspberry Pi to have a full Linux experience and do his development there. And you can VNC to it, obviously, but he was doing this just to use the iPad Pro to code, essentially, to do the work that he wanted to work. And there's something about it that's better than all the alternatives, and that's very strange. We're almost measuring it's like on the scale of productivity, I suppose. You have like cell phones over here, a full desktop computer over here, laptops kind of over here, and then you've got tablets somewhere in here, depending on the work that you're doing. Like what's closer to the middle? You know, what is that middle ground there? I'm not sure. That's what I'm doing. I would like to use this. It is slick hardware. It's literally slick, but it's extremely good hardware. But I don't know what I can do with it. So I'm thinking about that. I'm trying to figure out stuff.